So I'm Matt, I'm guitars and keys in Ist Ist.
So I'm Adam, I'm the singer in Ist Ist. We are at The Yard, a venue in Sheet Mill in Manchester.
My name is Andy, I'm the bass player in Ist Ist.
And over the next 2 days we're going to be playing, 2 gigs where we're going to play all 3 albums in full.
These 2 shows are a really good way to showcase the full albums, I think. And in rehearsals it's been nice to play them in track order, and it'll be really nice for the fans as well, I think, to hear a few songs that we've never played live.
Direct messages off people from literally all around the world saying they're coming here for it, which is amazing to hear that people are coming from like Washington and Germany and Los Angeles and all these sort of places. It sounds crazy to me. My first memory of Matt was I met him when he was selling me a synthesizer in a music shop.
Me and Joel worked in a music shop together. He said at the time his singer was coming in to buy a synth, and I'd not met Adam before, and I sold him a synth. We had a bit of a chat about synths and gear and stuff like that. Adam and Joel have been talking about getting me in to do keyboards and a bit of guitar. So
I was friends with someone at school who was a bass player, and Adam was driving his car home from work.
I saw a guy walking down the street with a bass on his back
And said, "Do you play bass? We're looking for a bass player."
Unfortunately, that wasn't actually Andy. It would make the story so much better if it was, but it wasn't. It was some guy, but he knew Andy.
So this lad got home from school and, at the time of MSN, sent me an MSN message and said, "Oh, there's some lad who wants you to join his band. Can I pass your number?" And I was like, "Yeah, sound, no problem."
Turned out he lived about 200 yards away from where we rehearsed in a little factory warehouse thing. So.
My first memories of music, as in listening to music, not playing it, are probably like a bunch of records that my parents had at home, and we used to have a cabinet in the corner of the living room.
I had a cassette recorder that I used to have a load of stories and music on there, and I remember a children's songs cassette, and it had loads of Beatles songs on it.
Just a trunk of records there, and there were things like Rumours by Fleetwood Mac, I think there was Legend by Bob Marley, and I think there was other stuff like Roxy Music.
It's, do you know what I'll tell you what it is actually. It's just, I've never actually thought about that, but what it is there used to be an Australian comedy act, and I can't even remember what they were called, but they used to do a song called My Boomerang Won't Come Back. And my nana and granddad used to play it on an old record player. I've still got the record, but that's my earliest memory, I think, of thinking, oh, this is great, you know.
And even from sort of being 7 or 8 years old, just, putting something physical onto something else and sound coming out of the speakers was mad. I really like a lot of the sort of turn of the century New York stuff, really. That was something that around the time I was starting to play music looked really cool. So you had Interpol, Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
I mean, one of my favourites has always been Radiohead. And at the minute I'm listening to quite a lot of Slint as well.
Slow Dive, War on Drugs, Wilco as well, I'm a big fan of.
Strokes, LCD Sound System, things like that, around that kind of early 2000s, around when everyone wanted to read The Enemy and everyone was sort of hanging on their word.
Constant whining send me under.
My first impressions of the Laney Digbeth was when, well, obviously the first impressions were when I came down to the factory. When I plugged the 500 watt head into the 8x10 was, that sounds like me. You know, we got told to turn it down by the R&D team or the sort of the electronic nerds in the little sort of workshop downstairs.
Honestly, I just always liked Black Sabbath, so having a big Laney logo on a great big amp appealed to me.
When I first played the LA30, I think the thing that amazed me was the way that it takes modulation and reverbs and stuff like that. I was surprised at how clear and crystallised the sounds are. Really, they work really well.
The sort of different blends that you can have, the FET channel, so sort of just the classic solid state mixed in with the tube setting. And when you get that balance right and you dial that in, that's got a lot of power.
as well as obviously the higher gain stuff as well, is really cuts through. But it's nice to hear like the trails of the reverbs and stuff still coming through really nicely.
I love it. It's, you know, it's intuitive. It's easy to dial in. It's powerful, and I don't think I get it anywhere near what it not necessarily can do in terms of its tone, but in terms of what it can do in terms of its power, really. But that's been around the UK and Europe with me since I've started using it.
Obviously put the volume as much as I can get away with, but everything else just run it at 5s.
If I didn't like it, and if it didn't sound like me, and it wasn't doing what I wanted to do, it wouldn't be on the stage.
It's a really good pedal platform as well, because one of my sort of core always-on sound is delay. Just like a slap back, almost like a doubling effect.
The Black Country Customs reverb is a new addition, but it's something that I've always wanted, kind of a nice big ambient reverb for just certain songs, because most of my sound is more like a bit of delay and some modulation, but some songs I need a bit more like of an ambient kind of wash on the guitar, a bit more shoegazy. And it works great for that, especially in like the modulation mode, where it adds a bit of kind of pitch drift as well. That's like really good.
So much power in it. It's got, we call it trouser waft. You can feel like the trouser waft in your pants flapping on stage, and even at some big gigs we've done, still getting a lot of trouser waft from it, which is great.
Everybody wants to change their life.
From a live perspective, is probably for me Stamp You Out, which is the album opener of Protagonists, our 3rd album. Maybe I'm being a bit indulgent because it starts with like a dirty bass riff. But that's been our opening song of all 2023. You know, you come on stage, we've got a big sort of ambient sound going on, then straight in sort of big dirty bass riff.
One of my favourite songs, if not the favourite song that I've ever written, is a song called Heads on Spikes. And it's actually, the lyrics are 2 stories about a serial killer merged into one. And it always makes me laugh at the end of it when there's a big cheer. And it's like, if only they knew what they were cheering. It just makes me laugh.
Fool's Paradise, because I like the guitar work in there is some of my favourite stuff that we've got, and me and Adam's kind of dueling banjos parts are really nice to play.
Every band tells you next year is going to be the biggest year, but it is. You know, the amount of gigs that are already booked, it's going to be a big year. We're going to be on the road, we're going to be releasing other records, singles along the way. And I think the key for us has always been playing live and getting it in front of people. I feel like when people see it live, they understand it and it all makes sense.